Hi, I'm sitting here with Ariya Banomyong, the Managing Director of Line in Thailand. As the Managing Director of Line in Thailand and the former country head of Google and the Chief Commercial Officer of the True Corporation, I think you have a really unique perspective on the mobile space, but also on the full technology space in Thailand. I would actually make the case that nobody that I know here actually has had a view onto what's going on here that similar or competes to yours. And I would say, thank you very much for coming and sitting with us. In that context, can you give us some insight into why a service like Line has grown so much faster in Thailand than any of its competitors, but also in the rest of the region as well? I find that really interesting, that some of the other competitors have just kind of been washed away.
I think that's a very good question. I think, first of all, one thing that you need to understand is if you take a step back, the uptake of chat in general, right? I think that's been really amazing. And Thailand has seen something like very special, because a couple of years back, it all started with BBM.
PBM?
Right? BBM.
BBM, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For
so
sure.
Everyone was on BlackBerry.
Right.
And then suddenly everyone changed to WhatsApp. And then suddenly everyone changed to Line. And hopefully suddenly they don't change to something else.
They won't change to something else.
Right. But nothing, we can't take that for granted. And if you ask me why it's been so successful, obviously I would have to say stickers.
Right.
And it might sound like funny, especially if your audience is not from this region.
Right.
Because during my days at Google, we had these discussions, and when I was trying to explain why Line is so successful in Thailand, I said stickers. People were like, "What? What do you mean?"
So
stickers.
Why do you think the stickers are so much more important here? Like, I think I know why, but I'm curious than they would be, let's say, in the United States or in Europe. I try to explain this to my friends, and they're lost.
I think that there are a couple of reasons. First of all, the sticker is just it's a fun way to communicate.
For sure.
Yeah, and it represents. It's a really nice way to represent your emotion.
Yes.
But sometimes you can't send an emotion just by writing something.
Right.
But the sticker is a great tool. Is a great way to be able to send an emotion.
Right.
So I think that's the one thing that it does really well.
Super well.
And in a very cute way,
right?
Which is very Asian.
Very Asian, for sure.
That's very Asian. So that's the one thing that Line came up with before anyone else.
I know.
That's something that it did really well.
It still dominates.
Yeah. And the second thing is more generally about chat. I think what explains the success of chat. For me, chat is the real social network.
It is. I agree.
Because if you think about social network and the way we use it today,
right.
when I do a post, I tell you I'm right now at Echelon, or I'm having a drink, or I'm buying this,
right.
or I'm doing that.
Right.
It's me telling people.
Right.
It's not me asking someone from people, asking anything from people. It's more like almost like it's you telling, and sometimes you're telling strangers as
right.
well. But chat is different because when you chat, you're chatting with friends, with people you know, and if you look at the groups that you set up in your chat app, it's actually reflective of your real social network.
Exactly, because you're not chatting with people you don't know.
Yeah, so it's you have like a group with university friends,
right.
friends from the office, and so on and so forth. And even in the office, now it's like you have a group with your boss and a group without your boss.
Right. You segregate those things just to make sure that.
But it's reflective of your actual social network.
I think that's actually a really good point. I don't think most people think about it that way. But in that context, when I'm on some other social network, I don't know who's looking at it.
Yeah.
But if I'm chatting with you to make plans or just to tell you what I'm doing, it's with you and with a selected group of people. Much more powerful for me. Maybe that's one of the reasons why it's grown so fast. Very interesting. So based on all this experience that you've had in tech and in mobile, can you go back up a little bit and just say maybe in the last 3 or so years, what's changed so much? And in the context of Echelon as well, right? The first time I was here was 700 people. Now it's thousands of people. So what's changed in tech and then what's changed to get people so interested in it?
The internet. The penetration.
The penetration. Mobile penetration is so huge, right?
Because when I opened up the office for Google 4 years ago,
Right.
the internet penetration was like we were still in the not even the tens of millions, right? But one thing that we knew, or people in the industry could sort of anticipate, is the growth is just going to go this way.
Absolutely.
It's going to be exponential.
Absolutely.
And so that's something that personally I've been preaching for the past 4 years.
Good for you.
And me moving from Google to Line doesn't change what I believe in.
No way.
I've always believed in mobile, and the numbers right now are proving me right.
Right. I mean, the mobile penetration here in some cases is higher than it is in the United States or in other Western countries.
It's not only higher, but it's most important. It's higher than the desktop internet penetration
By far.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the key trends that sometimes if you talk to a company, they will still think about creating a website and saying no, start from mobile and then go to desktop.
Absolutely.
Because you need to nail mobile.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we looked at things back in 2011, 2012 and said, with the onset of 4G and LTE, mobile usage, which was already high, was going to explode. Yeah. And that's what's happening.
And in Thailand, we just concluded the 4G auction just 10 days ago.
Right.
So what's going to happen next year is you're going to see a next wave of growth.
Absolutely.
So right now we have 40 million users on mobile internet, so accessing the internet from mobile.
Right.
And it's going to grow to 50, 60, 70 million in the next 2-3 years.
It's a really interesting comment. And when I look at the market development from a VC perspective as an investor, mobile first, maybe even app first, right? Because that's where I think most of the stuff is going to be.
And I think it's very tricky because when you think about a mobile phone, it's a screen this small, right?
Yep.
So nailing the customer experience on the screen this small, it's when you have a laptop, you have so much real estate. You have a 13-inch screen,
right?
So much more real estate. But suddenly you have 5-inch screen. How do you do that?
How do you do it? And still make the user experience and the user interface useful enough for everybody else.
And I would argue, how do you make it even better than on desktop?
I completely understand, and it's always with you as well. Right? So you can't really carry this with you all the time, even though I try. But having this thing in your pocket all the time means it's always on, always available, and always connected. Really important. And I was going to ask you in general terms, but now maybe I'll ask more specifically. Are there things you see coming in the future? The past is interesting always to talk about. I'm much more interested in what you think is going to happen over the next 3 years as well. It's going to change what we already know and understand.
I think on a 3-year period, it's hard to predict.
For sure.
But a couple of things comes to my mind. First of all, even though we're in a mobile-first, sort of era, we're not quite there yet. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the user experience on a mobile phone, and I always take this example because people can relate to that. When you want to buy something today, you probably go look at pictures on Instagram or on Facebook, right? So, I really like this bag or these shoes or whatever. Then you talk to the seller through Line. Right? Say, I want this size. Do you have this available? How much does it cost? And then you transfer money either through your e-banking application or you go to the ATM machine.
Right.
Because remember, we're in Thailand.
Yep, so, I completely understand. Cash on delivery,
is,
all that type of stuff
still
is
king.
high, yeah.
And so what happens is you go through three distinct stages to make one purchase.
And they're all in disparate applications, right?
Yeah. And you have to switch back and forth. So how do we streamline that? How do we make it more user friendly for consumers?
Right.
Actually, right now people are working their way out, and it works. But we can do better than this.
Absolutely.
We can do better than this. So I think that's the first thing that I'd like to see, and that's something that Line we're trying to do is how do we merge that experience and put it under chat.
Right, so that the purchase, the payment, and the settlement and the delivery just happens.
Right there.
Right, so the customer doesn't even know.
So I think that's the first big trend that I think I'd like to see happen. The user experience has to be much better. And the second point is, and related to that, think about the number of apps you have on your phone today. Right. There's a proliferation of apps.
There really is, isn't there?
And there's a new app every day.
Every day.
And how do you, how do you use all these apps? How many do you use? And so I don't have the answer how it's going to change, but I think something is going to have to change, so that we make it like much more convenient for users.
And much more consolidated. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think those experiences have to come together to the point where purchasing something is really just like pressing a button, or even just taking a picture of it, something like that, and then the back end just happens.
Yeah. And the third thing I think is going to happen is, it's kind of funny to say that because e-commerce is still quite nascent in this region.
For sure.
But I already think that it's going to have to change.
Massively consolidated, I think.
Not just consolidation, but I think the way we do e-commerce as well. Because right now, e-commerce is already like, the way we do e-commerce is already like, in a way, a traditional way, right?
20 years old.
Yeah. So you're doing e-commerce through, a website, through an app.
Right.
But think about this. What does a consumer do, right? When you want to buy something online, you don't go to one website.
No.
Right? No. You go to, if you're in Thailand, you probably go, you check on Lazada, you check on iTruma, you check on TEERANUN.com.
Yep.
If you buy something from the US, you definitely check both eBay and Amazon.
For sure.
Right? So, the loyalty of loyalty is, consumers these days already have a very low level of loyalty, but online is making it so easy for them to just switch.
Right. Like in the old days in a physical store, it was hard to go into one store, go out, go back in and check prices or check service or quality. But now
it's so easy.
Just a click away.
It's so easy. It's really a click away. So I think, e-commerce or m-commerce is probably going to have to morph into something else, and especially with people spending so much time on chat, how can that's a reflection that we're having. How can we how can we leverage what's happening into coming up with what could be the next way of doing commerce?
Right. I mean, there's no way that a company like Line, with all of its embedded users, shouldn't be thinking about how to take that commerce. I know you are already, but
we haven't figured it out.
Mainly, it's really hard. It's not a given, right? But that's a really interesting concept. Anyway, look, thank you so much. I really appreciate it for spending so much time. And frankly, I'd love to get together again and have a much longer conversation with you about this, if that's amenable to you at some point in the future.
More than happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.